It all begins with the water. Lakes, ponds, streams. Clean, cool, and nourishing. In the mornings, the water is alive with an ethereal, hydrating mist. The ripples in the lakes add another element of beauty, as if one were needed. Thanks to the water, the hills are alive with trees, an abundance of trees. Clearing the trees allowed the earliest settlers to raise crops, corn, root vegetables, fruit trees. More settlers arrived, carving roads from old Indian trails, planting their crops in the cleared forests. More houses went up. Yet centuries later, parts of that settlement are largely unchanged. Even during the busy rush hour, a fog descends on one of the many hilltops, a corona of clouds, lending the scene a sense of majesty, serenity, and even mystery. The reliable train arrives from the big city to the south. You step onto the station platform and enter a world of charm and hominess, of flags and friendly folks. You've just arrived in Pleasantville, New York.
Come take a trip with me to a town I'd like you to see. Every day is sunny, the streets are always clean. Everyone has their own washing machine. Nobody dies, bankers don't lie, home values stay at the high of their highs. Nowhere on earth you'll ever find gentler people living side by side. The rest of the world's all corrupt. This town I'd like to adopt, where the bars are all 5 stars and the birds sit like notes on the wires. Come get your fill in Pleasantville.
In 1684, Dutch-born Frederick Phillips bought the land that would eventually become Pleasantville, but at the time was part of his growing empire called Phillipsburg Manor. 11 years later, he leased 169 acres to a tenant farmer, Isaac C., who established a successful farm raising wheat, corn, and rye. During the American Revolution, this part of New York was considered neutral territory, but that didn't stop the local men from joining the ranks of the Continental Army or the militia. Undermining their cause was the traitor Benedict Arnold, an American general in charge of the fort at West Point on the Hudson River. Even a cursory glance will illustrate the pivotal role of West Point. Whoever controlled the point controlled the river, along with the colony of New York and much of New England besides. Major John Andre was a 30-year-old British spy when he made a deal with Arnold to buy the plans to West Point, which would enable the English army to take control of the vital fortress. In a fateful coincidence, several American militiamen received permission to leave their post in North Salem for a scouting mission near Tarrytown, just a few miles from Pleasantville. Meantime, with the plans to West Point in hand, Major Andre crossed to the east bank of the Hudson River and headed south, straight to Pleasantville. Here, at what is today the corner of Choate Lane and Bedford Road, Andre became confused about his directions. If he had turned east, then south, he would have found a clear path to the British headquarters in New York City. Instead, he turned west and was captured a few miles later by those same local militiamen, whose descendants were among Pleasantville's earliest families. Andre tried at first to bribe the men, but they were suspicious and told him to remove his boots. There they found the hidden plans. Andre's capture saved West Point and thus the American army. It's not too much of a stretch to say that if it weren't for Pleasantville and Andre had made it safely to New York City, the outcome of the Revolutionary War might have been far different than what it was. But Major Andre wasn't the only famous person associated with Pleasantville. There have been many others, especially in the worlds of journalism, literature, and the arts. Author and playwright Lillian Hellman owned a country retreat called Hardscrabble Farm, just on the outskirts of the village, where she lived with her lover Dashiell Hammett, author of The Maltese Falcon and other iconic detective stories. In the 1920s, Lila and DeWitt Wallace rented a stone barn and cottage on Eastview Avenue in the heart of the village and launched Reader's Digest, one of the world's most famous magazines. If you've ever been unhorsed by a New York Times crossword puzzle, at one time or another you've probably said, "Curse you, Will Shorts," the paper's puzzle master and proud Pleasantville resident. Humorist Dave Barry was a 1965 graduate of Pleasantville High, where he got his literary start writing for the school paper. Bill Graham, who would achieve fame as the rock and roll impresario behind the Fillmore East and West, was spirited out of Europe as an infant to escape the Nazis and was brought to live at a Jewish orphanage in Pleasantville, today the Cottage School. Musician and actress Morgana King, a terrific jazz singer, was raised in Pleasantville. Academy Award-winning actor Sidney Poitier moved here with his wife and children, and they were very well liked. Many Pleasantville residents still have fond memories of the Poitier family, whose children attended public schools and whose doors were always open to the neighbors. Actor Gavin MacLeod, best known as the captain on TV's The Love Boat, lived for many years in Pleasantville, as did Deion Primetime Sanders, the only professional athlete to score an NFL touchdown and hit a Major League Baseball home run in the same week. Pleasantville lies 32 miles north of Midtown Manhattan in Westchester County, in a region called the Lower Hudson Valley. It's well connected to New York City by parkways and direct train service on the Harlem branch of the Metro-North commuter rail line. Once you arrive, you quickly realize that Pleasantville is a village of hills. Whenever you take your car in to be serviced, be sure and have your mechanic check the parking brake. Even the streets that are not true hills, like this climb up Guyon Street, can be pretty steep, especially at the end of a long workday. The driveways and the walkways of the houses zig and zag up the hills. A public staircase leads from high to low, too steep to build a street here. A charming wooden staircase on Flag Hill connects one street with another. If you walk much in Pleasantville, you're guaranteed some good exercise. There are 7 hills in Greater Pleasantville, depending on how you count them. Let's have a look. Graham Hills is vast and mostly undeveloped. It rises from the southwest corner of the village, south of Bedford Road, between the Sawmill River Parkway and the Taconic State Parkway. You can see it easily from downtown, and it's especially beautiful when the clouds rise like smoke from the hardwood forests on its slopes. Choate Hill gets its name from a Dr. George Choate, a 19th century proto-psychiatrist who built a sanitarium here. Newspaper publisher Horace Greeley, who coined the phrase "Go West, young man," died while he was a patient here suffering from depression. The hill sits just north of Graham Hills on the eastern section of the Pace University campus, and its contours are so smooth and rounded that from a distance it looks like a child's drawing of a green hill. But if you walk down Choate Lane at its base and look up toward the peak, it takes on a startlingly different appearance, like a forest primeval. Flag Hill is actually a long ridge that extends from the western boundary of the village proper all the way to Chappaqua in the north. Its lower slopes are lined with homes from the early to mid-20th century, all sitting literally in the shadow of the hill. On the opposite side of the village is Hayes Hill, named for the pioneer family that once owned all this land. Drive north along 117, and it's the hill on your right across from the Foxwood condominium complex. Although it's thickly settled, there is still plenty of nature to be seen here. In the far west of our village is Beach Hill, at the edge of the Rockefeller State Preserve. It's actually to the west of the Taconic State Parkway, but still in our 10570 zip code. A look at the aerial view lets you know how woodsy it is around here, with some gorgeous upscale homes. Bear Ridge is another huge piece of upland territory extending from the eastern edge of the village all the way to Armonk and Route 120. A drive along Bear Ridge Road, especially on a crisp fall day when the foliage is just beginning to change, is one of the great joys of living in Pleasantville. If this hill has a name, it's been lost to history, but let's call it Manville Hill, for a reason. Situated in the heart of the village, just to the north and west of Manville Road, it was the site of the former Manville Mansion, which sat on its crest, and is today full of gracious old homes in a leafy setting. It's morning, and life in Pleasantville is just getting underway. It's still too soon for the Duffers to hit the country club golf course, but they'll be here soon enough. An eager beaver tries to arrive at the office before his boss. At least the newspaper got here early, for once. If you didn't set your alarm, no worries! The landscapers will help you wake up, whether you want to or not. Parents walking their kids to school is a typical sight throughout the village. Hey, there's our favorite crossing guard. The heart of downtown is Wheeler Avenue with its mom-and-pop businesses and quaint storefronts. Here at the corner of Manville Road and Washington Avenue is the nonprofit Jacob Burns Film Center, which emphasizes award-winning foreign, independent, and offbeat cinema. Many of the world's top directors and actors have made personal appearances here to present their films. Since the Burns Film Center moved into the old Rome Theater in 2001, Pleasantville has become a cultural capital of the northern suburbs. Just a block away, the Burns Center's Media Arts Lab is devoted to education and media. With its state-of-the-art facilities, the lab has grown into a unique educational center for aspiring young filmmakers and other media creators. Directors, designers, and creative people from the world over come here to teach and mentor the young people who sign up for classes. The bandstand is a landmark in the village. Another landmark is the First National Bank of Pleasantville building, constructed in the 1920s and one of the most eye-pleasing commercial structures around. We don't have any skyscrapers, so this will have to do. The only thing that could make it more complete would be to have a neon private eye sign in a third-floor window. The architectural details, like the scroll work, the lanterns, and the arched entry, are out of fashion now, but not to those of us who love this building. In the lobby, you wouldn't be surprised to see Humphrey Bogart come walking down the stairs wearing a belted trench coat and a snap-brim fedora. And take a look at the porthole window in the elevator. This primitive painting of the village has hung in the vestibule for well over a quarter of a century. Chase Bank just recently relocated from this office on the ground floor, but it's their loss. What a gorgeous space it is. We don't know yet what business will take over, but a lively restaurant would be a great choice. That's the Village Hall on the left, another handsome 1920s building. The emblem of the Great Oak is a Pleasantville symbol. Sharing space in the Village Hall is the Pleasantville Police Department, one of the public safety cornerstones here, along with the Volunteer Fire Department and the Volunteer Ambulance Corps. Ashburn Hall, within walking distance of everything, has senior housing and a wide range of activities for active older folks. Supposedly, Reader's Digest, which left Pleasantville just before World War II, has been able to use the Pleasantville mailing address ever since because they paid to build this post office back in the 1930s. If you have any insights about that, let us know. Have an idea for a TV show? In Pleasantville, all you have to do is call PCTV and they'll assist you with your production. The Pleasantville branch of the Mount Pleasant Public Library is a haven of literacy, education, community programs, and entertainment. A beloved institution in the village and great librarians, too. The Pleasantville Farmers Market is one of the most successful farmers markets in the entire Hudson Valley. Purveyors come from all over upstate New York to sell their cheeses, pastries, fresh vegetables, flavored olives, organic beef, and much more. Heading down to the market is a Saturday morning ritual for most Pleasantvilleans and a great place to meet your neighbors. Pleasantville has kept up with the trends. Downtown apartments within walking distance of restaurants and transportation allow residents to work hard and play hard in the heart of the village. Oh yeah, and then this guy. Every December, Christmas Tree Island, as we call it, is decorated for the holidays with lights in the trees and a giant dreidel to celebrate Hanukkah. It's a cherished tradition. If you haven't already noticed, Pleasantville pays attention to landscaping and keeps the village blooming, especially in its pocket parks. This one is right next door to the train station, and it's a great place to read a book, wait for your train, or grab some takeout at one of the many nearby restaurants. The Pleasantville clock keeps commuters on schedule and was paid for by resident donations. Hey, that's us. All over town, you'll see civic initiatives like that, from the Rose Project to the Monarch Butterfly Way stations. In a walking village of just over 7,000 residents, the number of businesses in Pleasantville is just mind-numbing. You'd expect gas stations, but we've also got an auto parts store, a tire store, and a place to get a lube job. Barber shops are everywhere. So are salons and unisex shops. And congrats to La Barberia on its 30 years. You want happy feet? I don't know what that means. I do know that you can get colored and tanned and nailed and extended all over town. We're near the North County Bike Trail, so bicyclists are always coming into the village for bike supplies. The Village Bookstore is one of the great independent booksellers, and we are so lucky to have them here. There are more office blocks than you might imagine. Here you'll find CPAs, attorneys, investment firms, and real estate consultants. Here you'll find private investigators, marketing firms, and dance instruction. This brick building has dance instruction. We're big on dance instruction. An events company, Pilates, guitar lessons, and human services, whatever that is. The Manville Professional Center houses an endodontist, an orthodontist, a few regular doctors, and an anti-aging doctor. This well-manicured building at 325 Manville is home to a dentist, dermatologist, insurance broker, acupuncturist, and psychotherapist. This one in Memorial Plaza has an ophthalmologist, a performing arts center, and a hair coloring salon. Here's the place to go for wealth management advisors and social workers. Not sure if there's a connection there or not. And right next door, you'll find an orthodontist, social worker, tax consultant, occupational therapist, and a number of other therapists. You need cell phone service or computer repair? You got it, right downtown. Running down the list, there are contractors, pool builders, florists, clothing boutiques, gift shops, more gift shops, fitness centers, more fitness centers, insurance agents, including Guyan Agency celebrating 100 years, interior design shops, home decor shops, home services shops, shade, shutters, and blind shops, and tile shops for the home. We have 3 jewelry shops: LS Jewelry, Twin Jewelers, and Skystar Jewelry. Okay, maybe we only have 2 jewelry shops. You want to move here? We have plenty of real estate offices. And one thing everyone says is that Pleasantville is very clean. We've got dry cleaners and laundries all over the place. A big deal for us was when the famous cutlery manufacturer Zwilling moved its headquarters into town. They have great sales on their high-end merchandise right in their showroom. And then we have more doctors, dentists, and of course our local independent pharmacy. Pleasantville pets can get groomed, vaccinated, and sent on vacation all within a few blocks. Then of course we have business services, scuba services, surveyor services, tattoo services, vacuum services, an alum plant. I don't know what an alum plant is. Give us a shout if you know anything about it. Supermarket services, athletes warehouse services, optimized services, and funeral services. Pleasantville is a service-oriented village. You can't turn your head in Pleasantville, it seems, without seeing a restaurant. In the past decade, the village has turned into a dining destination that gets written up frequently in the newspapers. Sure, we have our fair share of chain fast food outlets. We even have 2 Dunkin' Donuts, as well as a Carvel ice cream, a Starbucks, and a Subway sandwich shop. And they have their place. But what makes the food scene here so interesting is that it's mainly locally owned, and it's incredibly varied in its offerings. A lot of locals get their starts in the morning with coffee and a bagel from one of our delis or the local bagel shop, or our indie coffee house. We like this place a lot. Sundance Deli has incredibly good and very authentic Mexican dishes, while El Paraíso across the street has delicacies from Central and South America. Whatever you want to eat, you're apt to find it in Pleasantville. Pub Street offers everything from a raw bar to pasta to burgers in our charming stone former train station. You'll get a menu of new American dishes at Vella Kitchen. The Second Mouse is one of the newest additions to the foodie scene here, with a brilliant selection of cheeses and charcuterie and a quaint bistro setting. The name, by the way, comes from the old adage, the first mouse gets the trap, the second mouse gets the cheese. Asia and the subcontinent are well represented, starting with frontier Indian cuisine at Bollywood, Asian street food at Fat Root, sushi and sashimi at Dai Sushi Japanese cuisine, classic Chinese takeout at On's Chinese Kitchen, a not-to-be-missed blend of casual French and Indian street eats at Little Mumbai Market, and more Asian and sushi at Miyabi. Talk about mixing cuisines, how about a falafel taco? Right in the heart of the village is a classic American diner, the Pleasantville Diner. Guess who showed up the other day? Yep, that's Jerry Seinfeld and Steve Martin taping an episode of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. You can find Greek food as well as Italian, and more Italian. And as long as we're on Italian, you'll find more of it at our pizzerias. A lot of people here swear by Lucio's. And Craft Wood-Fired Pizzeria has brought a hip new vibe to the pizza scene. Then you've got your protein bowl, sandwiches and pastries, gourmet fast food, unbelievable seafood, more unbelievable seafood, southern dishes at Southern Table, which received a Bib Gourmand from the Michelin Guide, American and Mexican fusion, and straightforward Tex-Mex. Want to pick up some dessert on the way home? There's the Little Chocolate Shop, Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory, the Flower and Son Bakery, and the Pleasantville Bakery. But as Woody Allen once said, man does not live by bread alone. Frequently, there must be beverage. Well, adult beverages are available at 3 terrific wine shops, a brand new craft brewery, Foley's Club Lounge, a 70-year-old landmark in the village, Lucy's Martini Lounge, Flight's Bar with its whiskey flights and tapas menu, and then there's Polly's, a friendly dive bar that's been a longtime favorite of students from nearby Pace University. If there's a predominant design element to be found around Pleasantville, its colors are red, white, and blue. The United States has recently come through a contentious presidential election. Like in most towns throughout America, Pleasantville had partisans on both sides. Lawn signs for one candidate, banners for the other, but linking all those residents, no matter on which side of the fence, was a love of this nation. And you don't have to look too far to find evidence of that. One thing Pleasantville's houses are not is cookie cutter. You'll find American Foursquare next to Victorian, next to Italianate. Elegant Second Empire next to a charming farmhouse, next to a gracious Tudor. More Tudor next to Dutch Colonial. The American Foursquare is perhaps the most common style. Set on a square foundation as its name implies, the Foursquare is marked by its boxy shape, usually ornamented with a wide front porch, sometimes with late Victorian or arts and crafts elements. There are cute little bungalows too, usually just one floor. And there are plenty of modest but charming Cape Cods. Among the most stately is the Colonial, usually painted white with shutters colored either black or dark green and giving off an air of New England-style wealth and gentility. There are some houses that can best be described as cottages. This one looks as if it would be right at home in the French countryside. Some houses have an arts and crafts flavor. While others are very definitely Dutch colonials, easily recognized by their distinctive gambrel roofs. Some houses don't fit into any specific category. Call them eclectic. This one has an old-fashioned bowling alley behind those diamond pane windows. This one's a little bit Art Deco, I suppose. And this one might qualify for most windows in any house this size. We even have a geodesic dome house with one of the village's best views from high on the slope of Flag Hill. Pleasantville also has its fair share of contemporary executive-style homes. Some might say McMansions. No matter what you call them or how you feel about them, they're big houses on nice, large properties. You'll even find a few Mediterranean-style houses, easily picked out by their stucco walls and terracotta roofs. Houses called mid-century modern owed a lot to the ideas of architect Frank Lloyd Wright. They have extended roof lines and low-slung profiles, and you can find them easily throughout the village. Some of the older farmhouses are still standing. You can also find ranches, raised ranches, and split ranches throughout the village. Second Empire houses are a form of Victorian style and are known for their high mansard roofs. Very cool looking. You can call these houses shingle style for obvious reasons. We don't have any castles in Pleasantville, but these stone houses come pretty close. The high-peaked roofs and amusing architectural elements of these homes might qualify them for the storybook category. Set aside the Foursquares and Dutch colonials for a minute, and Tudors might be the most popular house style in Pleasantville. They're defined by their brickwork, exposed exterior wooden beams, the yellow or beige painted stucco walls, their vertical crank windows, and their leaded glass. Classic, beautiful homes in every respect. Strangely, considering Pleasantville's architectural heyday, there aren't a lot of classic Victorians. But when you see those witches' turrets, fish-scale shingles, and architectural embellishments, you know you've struck Victorian gold. This is the Marmaduke Forster House on Bedford Road, whose roots go back to the 18th century, but which took on its Victorian appearance in the late 19th century. This house is next door and makes for a good architectural neighbor. This is the 1896 Library Hall, which became the rec center and is now a private home. Elsewhere are various Victorian styles, all of which fit in fine with the overall residential look of the village. Let's take a walk around the village and continue to admire the handsome houses. If you pay attention, you'll find there's an extra visual pleasure. Notice the side windows on these houses. They're beautiful. Many of them are made up of elongated hexagons. They're everywhere. Occasionally you'll see a weird window, but that's okay. And then you'll see the diamond pattern windows. They're everywhere too. So much so that some locals even call them Pleasantville windows. From inside one of these houses, you can look out a diamond pane window into the next door diamond pane window. It's just one more thing that makes Pleasantville one of a kind. When Pleasantville was incorporated in 1897, and in the years soon after, many residents still relied on horses for transportation. So maybe it's no surprise that even today you'll find barns in plenty of those backyards. They don't always stand out. In fact, you can walk past them easily without noticing them. But now and then, crane your neck down one of those long driveways. Out back behind the main house. Think of what life was like 120 years ago. Look past the aluminum garage doors that were added in the 1950s and 60s and enjoy a peek at old Pleasantville. In the hilly parts of the village, curbside mailboxes are a common sight. Maybe the hill dwellers are just trying to be kind to the postal workers, not wanting to make them climb more than they already have to. And while they're at it, many of them get creative with their designs of these mailboxes. No barn in your backyard? No problem. Put one here. This one's a little forlorn, looking like an abandoned Japanese house. Matches well with this one, though. Too bad they're not next-door neighbors. Think a piano player lives here? Or a free spirit over here? Just another something that gives Pleasantville its personality, leaving the viewer delighted by the box's artistry, color, and sheer whimsy. Bear Ridge sits in the northeastern corner of the Pleasantville zip code. It's such a large area that it resists easy description, but a few common denominators can help. First, the trees. The Bear Ridge neighborhood is covered in trees. It's especially hilly, too, with not just one hill, but numerous slopes. And there are several bodies of water, including Munson Pond and Bear Ridge Lake. With a few exceptions, the houses aren't as old and historic as in the village proper, but they're substantial and sit on large lots. And it's a great place to be a kid, too, especially one who likes to go exploring and adventuring along the area's hidden trails and among the undeveloped woods. The Flag Hill neighborhood, just to the northwest of downtown Pleasantville on the opposite side of the Sawmill River Parkway, should more properly be divided into two neighborhoods, the upper and the lower. The lower part comprises three parallel streets: Pleasant Avenue, Sarles Lane, and Mountain Road. The streets are full of capes and ranches. The neighbors all know one another, and in summer the kids have fun hanging out in the woods by the Sawmill River. The upper neighborhood can best be described by its street signs like Alpine, Hillside, and Rose Hill, and its rural appeal. The homes are farther apart, the rushing of the wind over the ridgetop is more immediate, and there's a sense of privacy, of nature, of quiet. Graham Hills feels separate, isolated, special. There are only two roads leading in and out, so unless you're going there for a reason, you're likely to pass it by. But that would be a mistake if you want to know Pleasantville's neighborhoods. The houses range from old farmsteads to modern designs and everything in between. The proximity to the trail system of Graham Hills Park is a huge plus, not just for summer hikes, but for winter cross-country skiing, too. The leafy streets are wonderful for afternoon strolls, but watch out where you turn. Many of the neighborhood streets dead end at the edge of the preserve. Hayes Hill was developed mainly in the 1950s and 60s, so the architectural sensibility here is more modern than in the rest of the village. Yet the feeling of openness, of being on top of the world, also makes this attractive neighborhood stand out. Plus, there's lots of nature to enjoy despite the suburban setting. And look at the names, too. Highview, The Knoll, Hillcrest, Oak Ridge. They give you a good sense of the topography here. It's steep. What's especially odd is that on one side of any given street, you'll see an impossibly tall house. And right across the way, you'll feel like you might end up walking on someone's roof. As we said before, Manville Hill is an unofficial name, referring to the former Manville estate that once presided over this hilltop. In many ways, Manville Hill provides the best of all worlds. Only 10 minutes by foot to downtown Pleasantville, it's one of the village's most convenient neighborhoods, and the residences are handsome indeed. You remember from history class that all the nobles built their homes as close as possible to the king's castle? Well, when you consider the august estate that once commanded this hilltop, you shouldn't be too surprised that there are so many gorgeous houses here. Several residential clusters on either side of Marble Avenue form yet another neighborhood, or several neighborhoods, since they're not actually connected. The largest is near the McDonald's, across from All Souls Cemetery, and has a real down-home, neighborly feeling. But watch out for all those dead ends. Just across from Parkway Field is a small area with a classic old apartment building, the Assembly of God Church, some newer homes, and some traditional Foursquares. And just to the north of Parkway Field is yet another out-of-the-way neighborhood where the traffic is thin and the convenience to downtown is a high point of living here. Long lawns, handsome homes, and easy access to the village schools mark the Ashland-Nanahagan area in the village's southeast corner. Bankers' homes, solid, secure, plus a few more modest homes. An interesting phenomenon is occurring here as buyers come in and either knock down old homes or transform them into new homes. Examples: old, new, 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 and another new one. Homes around the Pleasantville Country Club add an element of chic to the upscale surroundings. Pleasantville got its start in what today we call the Old Village at the corner of Bedford Road and Broadway. This is where Bedford Road makes a sharp turn to the north toward Chappaqua, and Broadway begins, heading south to Thornwood. The houses here look like something from pre-Civil War times, and many of them were built back then. Sturdy, not flashy, well-maintained, historic, full of charm. The commercial corner is still a thriving area with 3 restaurants, a deli, and a gas station. And then there's the handsome old Daniel P. Hayes Hose Company. The village's first school was built here on Old School Lane. All in all, the most historic neighborhood in the whole village. Few residents of the village are even aware that Beech Hill is part of the Pleasantville 10570 family. This is the area to the west of the Taconic State Parkway and part of the massive Rockefeller Preserve, the former kingdom of John D. Rockefeller. It's Pleasantville's horse country, as evidenced by the stables here. Beech Hill Farm with its iconic green barn and nearby Fox Hill Farms. There's a lake at the base of Beech Hill, and the hiking is terrific in the Rockefeller Preserve. And the 2-star Michelin-rated Blue Hill at Stone Bars is just up the street. That's the former Roselle Grammar School, today a condominium. Roselle Park is to the west of downtown at the base of Choate Hill. Some of the houses are charmingly small, others graciously large. It's an intimate neighborhood. Chances are good you know most of your neighbors if you live here. There's a big playing field at the park itself, and residents from all over Pleasantville came here as volunteers to install the playground equipment, making it one of the nicest play areas in the entire village. The name says it all. There are no hills in the flats. This vibrant neighborhood sits just to the south of Pleasantville High School. There are only 2 ways in and out, so it has a distinct personality. Settled by Italian stonemasons in the early 20th century, many of the homes still exhibit that heritage. But nowhere is the stonework more obvious than in the Catholic Mission Church Our Lady of Pompeii, which was built stone by the locals in 1918. It's a dominant presence here. Turn a corner and there it is. Look between houses and you'll see it. Everyone knows everyone in the flats. It's that close-knit. But one of the strangest things is that the neighborhood has been zoned out of the Pleasantville School District, even though it is literally in the shadows of Pleasantville High. The core residential neighborhood of Pleasantville is often called simply the Village. Down Washington Avenue, along Martling, Sunnyside, and Romer, the streets between Manville and Bedford, largely made up of American Foursquares, most of these homes were built in the late 1800s and early 1900s. When someone says, "I live in the Village," these streets are probably what they mean. They say Pleasantville is a walking village, and nowhere is that more apparent than here, where residents can walk in less than 10 minutes to all the schools, the library, the churches, downtown shops, and the train station. A residential neighborhood unique in the world, Eusonia lies at the eastern edge of the Pleasantville zip code. The utopian community of political progressives was established with the aid of modernist architect Frank Lloyd Wright and his acolytes, who designed a coherent grouping of houses that featured mostly one-story floor plans, walls with high, narrow windows, carports instead of garages, and a nod to the natural settings that make the houses even today seem to disappear into the trees. If it weren't for the popular orange wood stain, you might miss some of them entirely. Architecture buffs from the world over venture here to take notes and photographs, so you won't be alone if you want to come by and stroll these quiet, woodsy streets. Pleasantville has 1 grammar school, 1 middle school, and 1 high school. So many children in the village graduate high school alongside the same kids they sat next to in kindergarten. The site of Bedford Road School has housed a school of one sort or another since 1875. Now kids from K through 4 attend this beautiful modern facility. Students in 5 through 8 go to the Pleasantville Middle School, which shares a campus with the 9 through 12 high school. Pleasantville schools have consistently been rated among the top schools in all of New York State for decades. The Cottage School has long been an institution to help students with challenges earn their degrees. And Pace University, with campuses in Manhattan, White Plains, and Pleasantville, is one of the most respected colleges in the state. And let's not forget the little ones. There are several formal nursery schools to choose from. Evergreens wherever you look. Oak, elm, sugar maple on every street. Copper beeches, Japanese maple. The variety's astounding. Weeping willows here and there. And come fall, the colors charm even the most blasé viewer. Wildlife is mainly limited to squirrels, including these strange black squirrels that can be seen all over the village, along with raccoons, opossums, chipmunks, and of course deer, which can be very bold and which can be so destructive to suburban gardens. The Aqueduct and Con Ed right-of-way is a great place for a stroll, although you should know there are no trespassing signs everywhere. The right-of-way extends from western Pleasantville to Thornwood and beyond. The Pleasantville Country Club once had an 18-hole golf course, but in concession to modern times gave up 9 holes to build condominiums. It's a terrific place to hold events, and the 9-hole course is popular with local duffers. Graham Hills Park has numerous hiking trails, but don't be surprised to find a kid on a mountain bike go whizzing past. This park has one of the most popular networks of mountain bike trails in Westchester County. Not technically in Pleasantville, but right on its edge, Kensico Reservoir is popular with fishermen who like to go out in rowboats. Another popular place to fish is Nannyhagen Lake in Nannyhagen Park. The lake itself used to be the old swimming hole before the pool complex was built, and is today one of the most beautiful corners of the village. The surrounding walking trails, the spillway, the playground, and the pools make Nannyhagen Park a jewel of Pleasantville's recreation offerings. Oh yeah, and then there's these mysterious structures in the woods beyond. How many kids learn to fish and ice skate at Opperman's Pond at the base of Graham Hills, just off Bedford Road? There's a fishing pier and a small picnic area. And if you're an artist, bring your oils and brushes to this picturesque setting. Structured recreational programs are offered by the Pleasantville Rec Center, which sits hard by Parkway Field, where the justly famous Pleasantville Music Festival is held every year. That's Choate Hill in the background. The Pleasantville Panthers baseball and football teams play their games here to huge and enthusiastic crowds. Soldiers and Sailors Park on Manville Road in the East End has 2 baseball diamonds, a small playground, and a hugely popular soccer field for the younger folks. When it comes to tennis, locals have 2 main choices: the thriving Pleasantville Tennis Club and the public tennis courts off Bedford Road next to Foxwood condominiums. Will Shorts, local resident and puzzle master of the New York Times, created the Westchester Table Tennis Center, which attracts visitors from around the world. For such a small village, there's a wide choice of houses of worship. Off Marble Avenue is the Assembly of God. On Bedford Road in downtown is Holy Innocents Catholic Church. Previously, we mentioned the Catholic Mission Church, Our Lady of Pompeii in the Flats. St. John's Episcopal Church is not just gorgeous, and it is, it's on the National Register of Historic Places. The Lutheran Church on Manville Road plays the Angelus bells at 9, noon, and 6, with beautiful melodies calling the faithful to prayer. The United Methodist Church is on the east end of the village on Bedford Road. The Presbyterians are in the heart of the village, and their incredible stained glass window is a pride of the community. The Upper Westchester Muslim Society has recently opened a prayer center and school on Bear Ridge Road. And the Pleasantville Community Synagogue has been serving the local Jewish community since 1997 with an emphasis on joyful Judaism. For such an old village, we don't have a lot of spooky Victorian graveyards. All Souls is the Catholic cemetery. Up in the Old Village, Bank Cemetery and Broadway Cemetery are the final resting places for many of Pleasantville's pioneers. The headstones might have a bit of moss and tilt a bit. Heck, so do I. And these go back to the 1800s, but they're still well cared for and well loved by the people here. Not every house in Pleasantville has a front porch, but most do. Many have handsome columns, comfy furniture, and fun decorations. It's like they're saying, come on up for a chat. We're glad you're here. There are wreaths and flags and pretty flowers wherever you look. Just walk down any street in the village and you'll see that folks go out of their way to make their porches look just as attractive and inviting as you'd expect in a place called Pleasantville. It's the end of a busy day in Pleasantville. The parks and the plazas are emptying out as people head home. It's a beautiful sunset tonight. We get a lot of pretty sunsets, and they look even better when you're looking at them from your front porch. And now it's time to say goodnight. Hope we'll see you again tomorrow in Pleasantville. I'd like to bring out a very special friend of ours, Miss J.D. Souther, to perform a song that she wrote about this beautiful town. The song's called In Pleasantville.
Come take a trip with me to a town I'd like you to see. Every day is sunny, the streets are always clean. Everyone has their own washing machine. Nobody dies, bankers don't lie, home values stay at the high of their highs. Nowhere on earth you'll ever find gentler people living side by side. The rest of the world's all corrupt. This town I'd like to adopt, where the bars are all 5 stars and the birds sit like notes on the wires. Come get your fill in Pleasantville. Folks sit on porches and talk. Cell phones are turned off. Stores are booming. The cash registers gleam. The tattoo shop is on the main street.
It really is.
Kids do their chores, their good moves last. Video games make them head of the class. Nowhere on earth you'll ever find find. Circle of friends singing side by side. Dollars fall like leaves to the ground. I love this town where the bars are all 5 stars and the birds sit like notes on the wires. Come get your fill in Pleasantville. Musicians play until all hours. A short train ride will take you to the city. Of course, all the girls here are pretty. If you're single, no need to fret. Your love is here, you just haven't met yet. Nowhere on earth you'll ever find cats and dogs playing side by side. Let me hear you sing it out loud. I love this town where the bars are all 5 stars and the birds sit like notes on the wires. Come get your fill in Pleasantville, and there's never a bill in Pleasantville.
Exit 29 Manville
in Pleasantville.
Every duck has a bill
in Pleasantville.
Just kick back and chill
in Pleasantville.
Smell that backyard grill.
Oh yeah.
In Pleasantville.
The soccer team won 4-0.
Yeah.
In Pleasantville, where the bars are all 5 stars and the birds sit like notes on the wires. Come get your fill in Pleasantville.